Too many characters. Way too many. Like, there's no way in fuck I'm gonna be able to remember all these character names. To make matters worse, not one, not two, but three freaking characters have the same exact name, called Yuna, if I am correct. And the only way to really tell the difference is by appearance, or if their name is written on paper, which is a different form of kanji, and, you know, all that type of stuff. And honestly, majority of us that watch anime don't really know how to read Japanese, and so it's gonna be very fucking confusing. So, too many characters. Way too many fucking characters. Oh my god, it's ridiculous. And it's not just that, but the name. How do you even say it? Mayoiga? Mayogu? What? You know what? I'm just gonna call it Mayo. I'm just gonna call this series Mayo. The Mayo is gonna be the ultimate in-game. So, anyways, jokes aside, I am going to be calling this series Mayo, just for short. And with the characters, so many characters, I gotta say, a lot of characters need to be starting to die off. Like, I need to see a lot of death going on. Like, I need to see, at the very least, there's 30 characters, right? Like, there's 30 characters, I think, in the series. I need at least about 29 characters to die. You know what? Fuck it. Do complete 30 for I don't have to remember all the characters' names, because there's just a shit ton of characters, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, every single different personality is just slung into the same bus, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just, this is hard to keep up with. But I gotta say, though, you know, all that joking aside, and the issues with just me being able to kind of comprehend so many names at once, which is just my own issue, it's not nothing else, it's not actually the series' fault, it just, holy shit, all the characters, I'm like, what the fuck, I cannot remember all this. Like, if you can remember all these names, like, I'm just gonna say right now, if you can remember every single fucking character's name, I award you. I fucking, like, I'm clapping for you. I'm clapping for you right now. If you can remember all those fucking characters' name and remember their appearance and you can describe them to me, GG. G fucking G. You're pretty damn good, because there's no way in fuck I'm gonna be able to remember these characters' names. I'll probably remember maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 at the max, depending on, you know, how these characters are, because if I had to make any honest, you know, I guess assumptions about the series, when it comes to anime, especially something like this, with all these characters introduced, all these characters are not going to get characterization, especially with the way the theme or the atmosphere of this episode was kind of done, which I'm going to get into. So this is my first impressions of Mayo, episode 1, and honestly, this episode gave off a very eerie and creepy vibe. It gave off a vibe of like a horror anime, and when I was reading the, you know, genres of the series on AniChart, I don't believe there was a horror genre on this. I really don't believe there was. And so the way this episode was very creepy, and the way it, you know, kind of displayed itself throughout the episode, it made me assume something very bad was going to happen. Like, someone was going to die, someone was going to kill someone in the bus, something was going to happen, and it didn't. And it leaves me kind of pondering, what the fuck is going on? Like, because there's so many characters, and the way it's done is, it's set up for a potential of all these characters being killed off, or a good portion of them to be killed off. The way, you know, the background's done, the rainy atmosphere on a bus ride to start a new life, a death letter. I mean, there's all this set up for, like, dark themes throughout the series, or this episode, and you're like, something bad is going to happen, some shit is going to hit the fan, and that's what I was waiting for throughout this entire episode, but it didn't happen. So I'm very curious exactly where the series is going to go, because I know it's a mystery genre anime, and I think it's a psychological series as well. I could be wrong, don't, you know, kind of quote me on that, but I believe it is a psychological, but I do know it's a mystery series. I could definitely see the mystery aspects of the series. I'm questioning right now, like, is it, you know, horror anime, but I don't believe that's what I should really be asking. I should probably be asking, what led all these characters to do this decision? Why do they want to go to this town? You know, stuff like that. Now, I will say, however, the overall presentation of the first episode, regardless of all the characters, and you could have your own selective issues with it, which I did, because there's just so many fucking characters to remember, it was still a pretty interesting first episode. It was nothing amazing. It wasn't. It was definitely nothing amazing. Animation looked pretty damn good for nothing but a talking episode riding on a bus. I mean, it actually looked pretty damn decent. I mean, it wasn't the best, but it looked good. Now, overall, though, there's really not much going on, so to say, throughout this episode. It was mainly just there to give introduction to all these characters, which I'm willing to bet about 99% of all of us couldn't remember all their names, and so that just kind of flew over our head. The only thing we probably remembered in this episode, if I had to place money on the fucking table, and I had to say the characters that everyone remembers, if there's any characters you remember, it's probably the dude that was an asshole to the bus driver. You probably remember the 3 girls with the same exact fucking name. You remember the kind of, I guess, the average boy main character. You remember the OCD girl that was constantly saying, like, oh, I need to do a certain thing, I need to believe I can do this, and then, you know, I need to walk 5 feet, or if I don't walk 5 feet, I won't have good luck, something good will happen, or something won't good happen, or whatever. And then, you know, on top of that, you had that one girl that was in the back that's very short, and was saying they're like a ticking time bomb. So, I mean, that's probably the characters we all remember, but besides that, everything else is like, whoop! Like, whoop! It's just straight over. I'm like, okay, so we gotta see where this is gonna go. But overall, first episode, it was relatively interesting. But I mean, if these characters don't in fact die, like, if they don't get fleshed out, because I know for a fact the way this series is kind of centered, it's not going to really probably focus on all these characters. There's no way in fuck, if this is a 12-episode anime, 12 to 13 episode, that they'll be able to develop fucking characters, like this many characters, 30 characters to be exact. There's no way they're going to be able to develop 30 characters in 12 episodes. That's just not possible. Majority of anime, at the maximum, they can develop characters. At the fucking maximum, but even then, it's a very shit job. The maximum episodes, or one episode can, like, develop one character. How many characters would be, like, 2 characters in one episode. Like, they would spend the first half of the episode on one, the second half of the episode on another. That's usually how it's done if they really want to force some character development or characterization. And because of this, I believe that if the series doesn't in fact kill off characters, and it's not a horror anime, and I'm wrong with that, but wrong with this vibe, then yeah, it's going to become a very big mess. It definitely will. It has potential to become a mess if this really isn't a horror anime, but I believe it would kind of be weird if it wasn't, because of the way the theme of this episode was. It was very dark. It seems like something bad was going to happen, so I don't know. I'm just sitting here questioning, like, okay, Mayo seems to be promising. I'll have to see how episode 2 is. But yeah, that's my first impressions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.